Hello guys, happy Saturday and welcome to this week's video. And in this one we are going to dedicate it to Aaron. He is a contractor who's been working with us for the last year or so on a couple different projects. And he had requested that we make a video where we go over kind of how we take a stock Ionic PWA application and then kind of move it into something that we use for enterprise scale applications. And let's be honest. Okay, we didn't come here to talk about Aaron. We came here to talk about his wiener. His wiener dog. Just start the video. So we're going to start by cloning down a Ionic PWA toolkit. We're going to get it up on our GitHub, and then we're going to make some changes to it to get us ready for future development. I don't think we're going to get this all in one video, but as always with everything that we're doing, if you don't know how to get started, linky dinky description. So that being said, let's go ahead and jump right in here. So here we've got our, we're on our GitHub. We're going to create a new one, so let's go ahead and create a new repository. And this is actually going to be like a secret project. So as we said in our last video, we're kind of working on a kind of behind the scenes project. And basically what we want to do with this guy is we want to open up something to you guys here after we finish this series of videos. Where you guys can kind of come and participate with us in a lot of these videos and stuff. We've got some big plans for it. Nothing set in stone yet, but as we kind of go through this series, by the end we'll have kind of a big reveal, and you guys will see what we're actually working on. So, but let's go ahead and get this guy started. And to do that, first off, if you don't know how to use Git and VS Code, there's a link in the description. We've covered that, and actually I'm gonna pop the video up over there. So feel free, click over, watch that, learn how to get these two connected. And also we're gonna use our Madness Labs tool that we created here called the Enjin CLI. And this is like a development assistant tool. And it's really easy to install. We've got another, look at that, another link to another video. So you can use that video in order to learn how to install our command line tool, but it's really simple, npm install -g for global Madness Enjin. And that will install the latest version. And then if you run the command enjin, we should see the readme, the kind of starter text. And if you've done everything correctly, we should be on version 1.2.0. So let's go ahead and start a new application and get it synced up to our GitHub, and even better, let's open this guy inside of VS Code, all with one command. So to do that, I'm gonna bump up my font size so you guys can see this. And what we're gonna do is let's cd to wherever you want to install your app. So in this case, it's d-apps for me. And then what we wanna do is let's go ahead and do engine start. And so start is the engine command that will start a new application. Then you pass in the repo link for the repo you want to clone. So in this case, it's going to be Ionic team / Ionic PWA toolkit. And again, you can see that we're using our short link, so we don't have to use the full link for GitHub. It'll kind of assume that, but you can put any Git link there, it'll work. Then the second or the third parameter is going to be the actual name of the project on our local machine, so the folder for the project. And we've called this one ML project. I'm going to name it as such, and I'll stick with the dashes. So ML project, and then we can pass in a couple flags that will help us automate some of the process that we do. So this command is going to install the project, clone it down, and then do the npm install. But then we can do -e for editor, and then we can pass in the code editor we want it to use to open up the newly cloned down project. So in this case, we're going to do -e code. If you're using Code Insiders, it'll be code -insiders. And then we're going to do -r for repository. And then we're going to give it the link to this GitHub repository. And I am using personally SSH Keys, which hey, look at that. We just so happened to we did a video on that. So you should click link description, blah, 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 blah. So, okay, so now we're going to link to this GitHub repo. We could use this one if we're not using SSH keys or two-factor auth. But in this case, we're going to go ahead and do git at github.com. Oops, woohoo. github.com, and then /madnesslabs/ml-project.get. And that's going to basically take this project and link it to this remote, to this repository on GitHub. So now with this one command, we should have a brand new project cloned down on our computer, installed, open up in VSCode, and set up as a remote to GitHub so we can get this guy up online so we can share it with others. Okay, so cool. So that command ran, and you can see there is our instance of VSCode. It opened up in our ml-project folder. We've already got our node modules. No need to run an npm install or anything like that. So we should, at this point, be ready to develop. And you can see here's all of our changes for our initial commit. So I'll go ahead and commit this, initial commit. Boom. And now if I click this little syncy button, it's going to sync it up to GitHub. And if I refresh over here on GitHub, boom, we've got our project cloned down and ready to go. So if you didn't want to use our command line tool, it would be just as simple as running git clone. So you do git clone Ionic PWA toolkit, clone that down to your computer, cd into the directory, npm install, then open it up in VS Code, then do git add remote origin, and then pass in the URL. So that's just our engine command line tool. Again, just a developer assistant tool to help kind of clean up and make it a little simpler to do some of these common things that we do all the time. So when you start a project, engine start makes it a lot easier. Cool, so now we've got our project. So one of the first things that, that we usually like to set up is environments. So each project, you typically have, if you're working in like an actual project for an enterprise application, you often have to have different environments. So basically having maybe one for your local machine, so like a set of variables and things that you have for your local machine, and then those things might change when you post it to your test server. If you have a test server, then you might have a staging environment and a live environment. So each one of these is an environment. An environment is just basically a set of variables that we're setting per where the code is running. So in this case, on our local machine and our live site, everything on this thing, the way that it's currently set up, is all the same. It's going to be the same code no matter where we run it. But we can set up some cool commands so that when we run our deploys with CircleCI or something like that, we can actually go about copying over some variables and some things in order to basically set up our environment for where we're going to be running this code. So it'll become a little bit more clear once you see it in action. But first, we're just going to jump into the root of our directory, and then we're going to create a folder and call it tasks. And tasks is just a folder where I like to put little node scripts that we want to run in order to do different tasks. So let's go ahead and create a new file, and we're going to call this one env.js. And then I've got the code here, and I will run through very quickly what it does. So this is an environment. It's going to pull in a library called fsextra, which lets us do some. It's like a file system. It's a file system library that adds in some extra functionality that didn't exist in the actual built-in file system stuff that comes with Node. So we will have to install that guy. So to do so, let's go ahead and do npm install --save dev fsextra. Okay, and I'm sure this would probably work without fsextra, but it's just something that, again, it's so handy. It's got some other really helpful methods that they've added on, plus working with async and all that stuff. So you'll probably use it again in the future, so might as well install it. So cool, so now we've got this guy, and what this command does is it's really, really simple. It just is a copy. So we set up a bunch of different commands here to copy over some different stuff, and depending on your project will be, depending on what you're trying to copy and what you have per environment, will depend on kind of what this file looks like. Let's, the best way to kind of wrap our head around this is let's set up an example here. So one of the things that you might have is, like, for instance, maybe like the maybe on your local machine you don't have Cordova, but when you actually go about deploying your application on a phone and building it as an application, you want a version of your index file that actually has your Cordova script tag on it. So let's go ahead and set something up like that. So let's go ahead and delete most of this file because it's actually, again, mostly just copy and pasting these little blocks here. And what we want to do is we want to say, okay, our index file is going to be environment index, and then this process arg2.html. And then what it's going to do is it's going to copy it into source index.html. So let's go ahead and now create a folder under our root, and we will call it environments. And this is where we're going to keep our different versions of our files that we need per environment. So in this case, we're going to be replacing this index.html with a specific version based on the environment that we're going to pass through. So let's go ahead and just copy this file. And then what we'll do is we'll create a new file here and call it index.local.html. And then we'll create another new file called index.test.html. Okay, so now we've got two different versions of an index file. And so now let's just copy the contents out of our regular index, and let's go ahead and paste, if I can copy and paste correctly. Yeah, there we go. No. Help me out here. Okay. So let's paste in our content of both of these guys. And now let's set up something per environment. So what we can do is here in our title, let's say local. And then we will save this guy, and then we will say test env. Okay, so now we've got something. So our tab now will say test or local, and that's how we'll kind of know that this is actually working. And then our index.html, this guy in the source directory, we really don't need to commit this guy at this point because of the fact that we're going to be copying this guy over depending on what environment we set. So cool, so now we've got this env command. It copies over from our environments file, the index file that we need per environment, and now we just need to pass in this process flag. So let's go ahead and jump into our package.json. And what we're going to do is inside of here, we're going to set up the actual command that's going to run to copy over that environment. And it's really simple. All we got to do is let's, whoa, no. I have just screwed something up as we're recording. Okay, so let's go ahead and copy and pasting, hold on. Okay, so let's go ahead and set up the commands that we're going to need in order to, okay, let's try some more time. Okay, let's set up the command that we need to run this environment. So very simply, we're going to do this. We're going to go into our package.json. Here where we run our start command, you can see it does a stencil build -deb -watch. So what we're going to do is we're going to paste a command in front of that and then put and. And so now this is going to run the env command. So remember we've got the, first we need to set up our env command, don't we? So let's set up a command that will run the environment command that we made inside of our tasks. So this is going to run node on tasks/env.js, which is our environment file that we made over here. And then what it's going to do is then run that copy command, and that's going to copy the file. And so now what we can do is on our start, we can say npm run env, and then we pass in this --app. In this case, let's do local. We'll do --space local, and that will pass this command to the npm or npm run env command, and it'll use this as an argument. This -- is really useful if you're trying to pass in something. --space is really useful if you're trying to pass something into an npm command that you're running from your scripts here with variables on it. So we're going to pass through this local, and what that's going to do is it's going to say, okay, I'm going to take that's that variable here, this process.argv2, and then we're going to say, okay, take that environment index dot blah, whatever we pass in after that .html, and we're going to copy that into our source over the index.html. And just to make sure that that is working, let's go ahead and just delete the index file out of our source directory. And now we can go back into our package file, and our start command is now going to copy over the environment and then run the stencil build. So let's go ahead and save that. And then now let's run npm start. And now it'll do what it's supposed to. It will copy out the local file and paste it into the source directory. And now you can see it says local env there at the top in our tab. So all fine and well, right? Let's try to see if we can get it to build the other one. So let's go ahead and let's make, we've got a stencil build command up here. Let's go ahead and with that guy, we want to build for the, let's say the test environment, or let's make a new build command. Let's say build test. And this is going to build for the test environment. So what we can do is we can run that build command, but what we're going to do is we're going to first run npm run env -- test, and then we're going to do and stencil. Well, we can actually even just use the build command that they've got. So we're going to run npm run build. So here you can see we're going to build for the test environment. So let's go ahead and check out how that works. So let's do npm run build test. Oops, my spelling today. Okay, so npm run build test. So now this is going to do the same thing, except this is going to copy over the index file for test because we've passed in test here in the flag. And I realized that's probably not going to work because there was supposed to be a space there. So let's try it again. Okay, so again, this is going to now run our copy command, except this time we're passing in the parameter test rather than local. And so it's going to use this index.test.html. And again, this is super handy. This was one of the first problems that we had to solve because on a lot of our applications, we have, like, for instance, a test environment where we test things out and we're hooked to different instances of APIs and keys and things like that than we are on our local machine or on our live machine, so our live environment. So this allowed us to very easily kind of set up an index file per environment as well as other files. So you can use this for your config.xml for Cordova apps. You could use this for anything. It's just a simple copy command. And this is kind of the things that we're going to set up for continuous integration. So once you deploy maybe to like the master branch on CircleCI, which, hey, look at that. We just so happen to have a video on how to set up CircleCI. Look at what are the odds? So check that guy out and like use this technique to help you set up your actual environments per where you're deploying and what branches you're deploying to. So I'm gonna wrap up there for this video. I'm gonna put this up online at the GitHub repo in the description. It's going to be madnesslabs/ml-project, and so like we're gonna pick up on this guy, and we're going to continue to run with this next week. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually now that we've got our environment, we're gonna start to set up some more commands to do some more stuff. We're gonna integrate Firebase. We're gonna get user authentication. All these things over the next couple weeks, we're gonna start piecemealing them in video by video. And so by the end, we'll have a completely built project, and you guys will have walked through it all the way with us. And then hopefully you guys will participate in our little fun thing that we've got planned. So there you go. That's this week's video, and I think we'll enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys.
Remember, as you're coding this week, there is a beautiful world outside of your monitor. Take it from Emmy and Dan here. Sometimes adventure is just a hike away.